I'm Rob.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to another edition of Let's Get Ethical.
All right. Welcome back in, everybody. Rob, what's going on, dude?
Welcome. Hey, Mike, how are you? How are things on the West Coast today?
You know what? It's cold and rainy, which
You know
means
what?
no one can drive.
No.
But yeah.
So it's warm and rainy up here in the beautiful Northeast. It's the early signs of spring. The grass is starting to turn green. The little plants are starting to come out of the ground. Winter is over. It's nice.
Nice. With that, do you get a lot of humidity?
In the summertime, we do. Yes. Sometimes that's
the
the most
spring, though?
oppressive part is the humidity in the Northeast. That's coming. That's coming.
Yeah, that's the worst.
So here we are.
If we get 20% humidity in California, we're like, oh, I can't.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, we'll get like 95% humidity
so
and
bad.
then it'll rain and then it's 100% humidity, but it is what it is.
That's the worst. That's the worst. Well, so let's get started for today. Before I go any further, let's throw this up, right? If you have questions, episode ideas, show ideas, things you don't want to comment down below, let's get ethicalpodcast@gmail.com is how you can reach us. Aside from that, make sure that you like and subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get notified of all the newest episodes. And Rob, I don't have it up right now. We have our Columbia base is growing.
Yes.
And we have, you know what? I have to give me a sec.
Okay.
I have to check this out because we have all kinds of new listeners, which is Norway, Jamaica, Bangladesh, Costa Rica.
Whoa.
How about that?
I love it, man. We are international with Let's Get Ethical.
I love over
that.
the place, and it's tripping me out. Yeah, it's amazing. But I had to share that. So today, as you guys hopefully know and remember from our last episode, we had Rachel Jenkins on, the vice president of the Missouri Society for Respiratory Care. And we did that episode because that was the first day of the Missouri Society for Respiratory Care.
Yes, it was.
Conference here in 2026. This week, we're having a special episode. That was last week. This week, Rob and I are back in California at the California Society for Respiratory Care Conference. And we thought it only appropriate, since we're at a different conference, to bring somebody related to that conference on and have another conversation. So we have with us today, and we'd like to just go ahead and bring him on, Jake Miller, who has a master's in business administration. He's a registered respiratory therapist, acute critical care specialist. He is the manager of the respiratory and interventional pulmonary for Keck USC Medical Center down in Southern California. And he is the president of the California Society for Respiratory Care. So everybody, please join us with a warm welcome for Jake Miller. Jake, how are you?
Welcome, Jake.
Thank you very much for having me. This is awesome, guys. I'm ecstatic to hear you guys are in Norway, Jamaica. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we're all over the place for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but it's actually really cool. You know,
that is no joke awesome.
Australia and Colombia. And yeah, that probably accounts for about 15 to 20%. No, I'm sorry, more than that. Probably 20 to 30% of our overall audience. And then including the UK and up in Canada too. It's a trip.
That's outstanding, man. That's no joke awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's just on this platform. That doesn't even count YouTube. YouTube, we have a bunch of other listeners as well. So it's really interesting. It's kind of amazing. We get all these analytics, and I kind of geek out on them a little bit. So
well,
Jake,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. As we were coming up with this episode, and Rob, you know me, I talk forever, so cut me off whenever you're ready. as we were coming up to this episode, we, as you know, this is Let's Get Ethical. We talk about ethics all the time. Um,
Yeah.
but we've branched off from our regular kind of ethics conversation. You know, we don't like to harp on the four pillars. That gets boring from week to week. And so we started trying to bring more guests on to find out what drives them. And what's really interesting,
Okay.
and I kind of like to start is your experience in respiratory. Kind of, how long have you been in respiratory? Let's start with that. How many years?
I believe I'm 13, going on 14 years in respiratory.
All right.
Yeah.
Has it all been Southern California?
It's all been Southern California. Yeah, well, I guess a little bit about my history is I've always been in medicine since I was able to work, pretty much.
Really?
I grew up knowing that that's exactly what I wanted to do. I started off in pre-hospital on the ambulance for a little while. Did EMS in Orange County, 911, for the better part of going on 5 years.
Nice.
Had kids, realized I wanted to go in hospital, wanted to go home every night, right? Not be away for days at a time. Kind of settled on respiratory. Not kind of, I did settle on respiratory. Started off at a community hospital in Pasadena, where I did a majority of my kind of work and growth there. And then in the last 7 years, I came over to USC Keck, where I've done a lot of my leadership. Started off at the bedside, went to supervisor, and then just recently was promoted to manager.
Awesome.
That's
And
great.
how long have you
Thank you.
been involved in the state society, in the California Society for Respiratory Care? Not president, but how long have you been involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm probably going to my third year
Okay.
from like my actual just starting like foot in the door, starting a couple committees to here and now. Yeah.
And what made you decide, I guess, to get involved? What was the reason behind that?
Oh, that's a heavy question, man.
Heavy
But
podcast.
Welcome to Let's Get
yeah,
Ethical.
no, I know. I appreciate it. Let's get ethical. So this was really born kind of out of COVID, right? And I like at this stage, I don't know how you guys feel, but I kind of hate bringing up the subject now just because so much stuff stems from COVID in that period.
Right.
But during that time, I was still at the bedside at the community hospital in Pasadena. I was working here as a new supervisor. I had like just started in a leadership role 2 months before the shutdown. So I was doing that. And then I was also picking up just random shifts at County, was really desperate, which if you're not familiar with Keck USC, we're like a block away from LA County.
Okay.
So almost 6 to 7 days a week, I was
Wow.
at the bedside just working. And I did that for the better part of a little over a year. Started to space it out here and there. Had some stretches where I was off, but I was just in it for a long time. And, so was everyone else around me, and people were doing just extraordinary things, but it all comes at a cost, right? So burnout, just tiredness, all that stuff started to set in. And it's not that I was getting tired of what I was doing, but I really needed some other outlet, something else to kind of give me a little bit of a spark. So I started looking at, we had an interventional pulmonary program. I got really into bronchoscopy and what we were doing there just because I saw a lot of cool growth and stuff that we weren't doing, at least at the bedside. I looked a lot more in education, started just taking classes here and there, figuring out what I really liked, and kind of learning a little bit more just online. And then I started thinking research, right? You were hearing so much about research all the time, but then again through COVID, we were doing our own kind of, I call it like, backyard research. So like everybody else, like what was working, what was not, writing it down somewhere. We had a port account. We were testing masks coming in through the LA port, right? So we were doing a lot of cool, fun stuff like that. We were just doing a lot of just data and getting stuff that out there to the masses. Really, really just informal, just, hey, this is what we've learned type of research.
Right.
So then looking through that, I came across just a lot of the same names, right? A lot of the same names that when you look at them, what were they doing? oh, they're a part of the society. They're a part of the AARC or the CSRC, or see their name attached to some of the clinical practice guidelines, right? Or some of the research that was just submitted that's online that you can look through. So when I thought about it, it's like, well, how best to look into this, how best to grow with this? And I started just asking around the society. I went to the conference one year, about 3 going on 4 years ago now, and just started asking around. It's like, hey, what do you guys need help with? What can I do around here? And a couple months later, I was invited to be a part of a couple committees and started from there. But yeah,
What
it was really just born out of a necessity to grow, I would say.
Nice. What if I can ask, what committees did you start out on? Do you remember?
Yeah, I started off on program, which I'm still the committee chair for,
Ooh,
which
that's
is it's a lot of work. It's the one that controls our conference, right? Or at least one of our conferences. And then I do governmental affairs, which also right now is advanced practice or professional advancement, better yet. Sorry. Hopefully
Mhm.
they're not listening. This is just heard me mess that up. But governmental affairs, which deals a lot with the advocacy, that kind of fun stuff that I was really, really novice to. I knew that there was people out there fighting the good fight, but if you had asked me 4 years ago, what's the good fight? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, what are we doing? So that was really fun to get into, and it was something that you're in a meeting and you have no idea. You're just learning as everyone's talking, and that was a really cool atmosphere that I had been missing for a long time. Yeah.
Wow, that's what if you're a fantastically well-rounded,
Yeah.
not just right individual, but a professional. I love everything that I hear you say, and you're right when you talk about, oh man, I don't want to bring up COVID again. But a lot of it was born out of right all the hard work that everybody did at the bedside, and your point of being tired, etc.
Yeah.
Was part of, like, for example, I just acquired, like, part of joining the CSRC, did that come like a release for you to kind of focus your professional attention away from the bedside? Did you ever think about that?
I did, not at first. I looked at it as something to challenge me at first because I knew so little about so many of the committees that were there, right?
Mhm.
I walked in almost a little bit overconfident at first, thinking like I could lend something, right? I just went through COVID. Well, so did all these other people that are part of society, right? Um, not until I finally got into it and I started speaking to people, is it now like a healthy release? It's something that comes with its own challenges, but it's kind of nice to get away from the bedside, but still be involved with respiratory therapy and be involved in healthcare just in general. It's a welcome release now.
Yeah, definitely. Backing on to something that you said, if I may, you said that
Yeah.
there are challenges. If you were to talk, to the members of California or anybody across the states and different societies, what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing, for example, at the CSRC, that might be similar or different to what other state societies are facing?
Ooh, okay. Um, I
That's a
would
tough question.
say that
I
is a
ask
tough
tough
question.
questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do I start? Um, all
At the
right, so
beginning.
similar to probably every other society is there's still an element of tiredness and burnout, right?
Mhm.
People still, it is hard for them to get them to do other volunteer work that is centered around respiratory therapy just because we're still relatively close to that time and people still did a lot of work. It carried over for years. People were still in that habit of working multiple jobs. People just do it out of necessity, right? So to have them to want to volunteer more time, it's a heavy ask and it's understandable. It's not that people disagree with anything that we're doing or find it not important. It's just that's a lot of time when you have multiple jobs and you have a family and you got just a lot going on in life. So I would say that's probably felt across the country, not nothing special to California at least. Um, Second is probably retention.
Mhm.
Having a lot of people who wish to see a change and then have them stick around to help maybe with other changes. I think that's also something that we have trouble dealing with. Again, family life events, people just have other stuff going on. That's something we regularly need help with, and we definitely see as a challenge. And for California, I would say it is the path to growth. California is all about momentum. We are trying really hard to do things like APRT, really trying really hard to lead the way with just standards in healthcare. And it is a both slow and fast moving process. When you get a little bit of momentum, it speeds up and you need all hands on deck. And then until you get to another plateau, and then you have people just kind of waiting there, waiting for that movement to happen again. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when it's happening. And then you're just kind of waiting for that next moment to where you're just building up all this detail and all this effort for just the hope of a change, right? So, I mean, I think California deals with that a little bit more than other states just because we're so large.
Yes.
We have so many regions, so many practitioners in the state. So with that, it's the same problems, but I feel like it's maybe just amplified, or they tend to circulate. Same problems could just come around again because you have so much going on across the state that everyone's trying to put their hands in the pot. So yeah, there's plenty of examples of that, especially in the recent year. But I think that's something we deal with on a regular basis.
So what do you find, or what do you believe, I guess, just in talking to members who attend the conferences, right? Because especially Rob, we've talked about this before. California has somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 practicing or registered licensed, therapists.
Yes.
But the CSRC, the California Society for Respiratory Care, only has somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,800 members. And of those 2,800 members, we only get somewhere between 300 and 400 that come to the conferences. I've been involved in the California Society for Respiratory Care since 2007. And I got to be honest, since 2007, it's always been right around 3,000 members. And it's always been right between 25 and 30,000 licensed therapists. Now, it can be stated that, not all those therapists are currently practicing in California. They've moved to other states. But
Sure.
The way that, and that's often the first reply that I get is, well, it's not really 30,000 that are here. But I think to myself, when I'm told that, I think if it's only 15,000 that are here, that's, Rob, how many licensed therapists do you have in New Hampshire?
Like currently?
Yeah. Just rough number.
A couple hundred.
30,000.
A couple hundred. Yeah.
But if only half of those 15,000 are in the state, and that's, I mean, we're given a lot of leeway there. That's still more than most other states.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, Rob, if you know how many were at the Vermont New Hampshire Society for Respiratory Care conference.
I do. We were just about 100 participants.
So 100 participants. And I didn't ask you how many licensed therapists there were in Vermont. Any idea?
Probably under 300.
So
is a guess. Is a guess. So let's call it another. Yeah. Let's say another.
Between the two states, you have 500 therapists. Yeah, you got 20% of your therapists to your conference.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. And that's good. We consider that like, oh, we had 100 people. That's fantastic.
Right. How many? If we get 300 of 30,000, that's 1%.
Yes.
We get 1%. And I mean, sure, 15,000, you get 2%. How can we draw more? How can we get more involvement? What is it about, and all of this to ask this question that is half unrelated. Jake, what do you feel, what is it about being involved in the state society that should make everybody want to be involved? Not just ours, but every state society. And Rob, you can get involved in this too. But what do you think that? What do you
You
think
go
it
first,
is
Jake.
that should make somebody want to be involved? If you could speak to people right now, and in fact you can, what would you tell them? Why? Why should they be involved? And this isn't the what does the CSRC do for me question. This is why should why is it important for people to volunteer? Why is it important for people to be involved?
Well, so you said this isn't the what should the CSRC do for me type of question, but it really is, right?
Yeah,
Because
I know.
you're because you could go to the AARC, right? And we would lose the argument as far as what are you doing for the society. You have plenty of options. You go to CTS. You can go to any number of conferences that I'm slipping my mind right now, but
Sure.
there is a lot of them out there, right? So there is a lot to go out there and to devote your time to. And I'm not going to take away from any one of them. They all do great work, right? Whether it's CTS, ATS, SCCM, all these other cool acronyms. Um, but a big part of it is what specifically does the CSRC do for you? And I would say, to your point of there being 30,000, and I'm going to correct just one fact and say last year we had 650 to our
Fair
conference.
enough. My
Right?
bad.
So
Fair enough.
I wish that was due to me, but that's due to the great team that we have that puts on that conference. They've been doing a great job to get that number. So how do we get more? Why should we get more? And it's all related to where you practice should matter to you because there is laws and there is stuff going on at the legislative level. I can't say that word. But there's stuff going on in Sacramento that you should really pay attention to, right? Stuff that is continually being talked about as far as stuff that they're maybe trying to take away from your license, stuff that they're trying to give to other licenses that would negatively impact your ability to possibly work in certain areas. And also the potential for growth. All right. I mentioned APRT a second ago. If that were to pass in California, which we're really hoping to get some momentum on in this next year, that would be an amazing outlet for people that are kind of sort of thinking about, is RT still right for me? Can I picture this being my next 20 years of work? Do I need something else to go through? People that are looking at that PA program. I know some people that are going over to nursing. Nothing wrong with that at all if you want to see that growth. But there's stuff that we can work on here in California that will definitely impact your future as a therapist in the space that you currently work in. And to go back to those numbers, whether or not you're even thinking about it, there's 30,000, right? Somewhere around 30,000 licensed therapists that have a stake in those decisions. It'd be really cool if we came together and we collectively said yes or no to a couple of these things.
Yeah.
Because right now we're fighting a pretty good fight, but we're fighting that good fight with just a couple hundred of us. Imagine if that turned into, it doesn't even have to be above 50%. You get a good amount of those therapists coming to the table and saying, hey, we believe that this is wrong, or we really want to fight for this. You could see some real change in the way that you practice for the better or worse. So I think it's really important that you pay attention to those kinds of things and you look at your state society, whether it be California, New Hampshire, Vermont, right? And that's awesome, by the way, Rob, that you guys get that kind of turnout for as many therapists as you have. I would wish that we get 20% of our therapists out. That would be amazing. But yeah, it really matters. And I just hope that it would, if you come to a conference, I would hope that you would actually see that, because it took me at least twice, if I'm being truthful. First time I came and I was kind of like a couple other people that go for CEUs, right? That's not a bad thing. That's why we offer them, right? It's part of the whole what do I get from my society type of thing. You go there, you get tips and tricks on what to do, you get growing trends in the field, you get maybe stuff that's flown by that you're still doing at your medical center, and you get CUs in return, right? For all that time that you give. So I think that is an important part that keeps people coming back. But the part that people should pay attention to that they don't is the stuff that's happening with their license that is continually going on. And if you want to ever find out, we have no problem telling you. chances are we have a class on it at the conference, and we'll be happy to tell you everything that's happening and everything you should be paying attention to, and why we're going to Sacramento, why we're going to DC, what we're talking about at all these trips. Um, we would love to tell you. We would love to get more people involved in it, because it is a heavy lift sometimes, and the more voices we have and the more representation we have makes it a lot easier job for us to go there and talk on your behalf. So yeah,
Wow.
I don't know if you agree with that, Rob, but yeah.
One of the things I think that you made an awesome point on that I want to reiterate is the state societies go out there and represent every respiratory therapist, regardless of whether you're a member of the state society or not. Whether that be, to your
Right.
point, education and advancement of the profession, education at
Yeah.
conferences, right? How do we bring in good speakers so we have good talks that are engaging to the people that come? The political and legislative end of it, you're going out and you're saying, hey, this is what's going on, folks, in Sacramento, or for us it's in Montpelier, Vermont, or in the state capital of Concord, or what's going on with the licensing board. So these are all aspects of the state societies that people don't always appreciate. I'm going to tell you that as a PACT member, you have the largest delegation of anybody of any state that comes to PACT.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that you should be proud of the people that serve on your PACT committee, because they come, they attend, and that's an amazing day for all of us that go to PACT, of an opportunity to hit the hill and really talk about the things that are important to our patients in respiratory care and the rules and laws, et cetera, that get made. And so again,
Yeah.
we go out there to represent every respiratory therapist, regardless of whether you're a member of the board or not. And we go out there to serve for our patients and fight for our patients, again, regardless. I'm going to say one more thing and I'm going to shut up. Because you're right. It is, at the end of the day, when you've worked hard and you've worked an 8, 9, 12-hour shift and you're tired and you want to go home, it is that extra effort, right? It's like, oh, I got to jump on 2 meetings this month, or I've got to help figure out, like, how do we find speakers for this great talk we want to give in the fall, and how much work goes into that. And I don't think people may not always appreciate that when they go to the conference, is how much time and energy and effort that goes into that. And I just want, again, sing the praises of everybody that's a member of every state society across the union. There's a lot of time, energy, and effort that goes in behind the scenes. And we absolutely want to see more participation from our fellow RTs to join our societies and help us make it better and carry that water forward.
Yeah. And I want to really quick, I want to highlight something that you said, because it struck a nerve with me in a positive way. And I don't want it to get lost in all the rest of our conversation. And that's responsibility, right? You brought up the fact that going to a conference or not going to a conference, getting involved or not getting involved, that's going to impact what you do at the bedside. And to just illustrate Jake's point, keeping up with standards, because standard of care changes. Standard of care is a constant moving train, and it's constantly improving and moving forward. And if we allow ourselves to get left behind and we forget to get on that train, what we do at the bedside in our patient care suffers 100%. And by keeping up with the changes in the laws in the state that you live in, not just California, but any state that you live in, and where that train is headed, and getting involved helps you get an idea of where we're headed and what things are updated and what needs to be updated. And then as a group, we then carry those back to the bedside, because our responsibility for all of this is to the patient. And we have to keep that in mind. And Jake, you said that and you illustrated it beautifully, better than I just did, but I wanted to restate it because I wanted to make sure it didn't get lost. Because that is an important part. And that kind of leads me, and maybe it actually answers the question that I had, which is, what made you decide to run for president of the state society? And it may be that.
Man. It really was. Is I want to enact change, but the change that I want to help enact is to help everyone else with their change, if that makes sense. Right? My goal is also your goal. Yeah, and I'd be lying if I told you that I was gonna like this was gonna be an easy process and you brought something. Mike knows, right? Mike brings up stuff and half the time I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but we're gonna find out. Right. And I like to pride myself on at least getting that right answer for you. Or getting the bad answer, but still delivering it to you and saying this is unfortunately what we have to work with. Um, but oh man, that's such a convoluted answer I'm giving you. But
No, you're good. You're
it's
good.
Great. It's great.
I I just want to help, and I want to help in the best way possible. And for me, that's just being as involved as possible. And I was paid a really good compliment from our previous president, who I actually look up to. If she listens to this, hopefully she's not embarrassed by this. But Crystal Craddock, I think the world of her. She is. If you don't know her, you should look her up. She does amazing work. Um,
She
but
does.
she told me, hey, like I will be there to help you. And then I was like, all right, if I have this safety net in this person that was going to help me, um, why not go out there and figure it out, right? And then I say figure it out, but also I'm surrounded by honestly amazing therapists, really strong therapists who have been in the society for a long time, who have a wealth of knowledge. It really makes my position a lot easier and allows me to grow in this role, which I've had to do for a good amount of time. So, and I feel like I'm just stumbling over my words, so please stop me. But why did I want to do this? Is because I wanted to help and I wanted to enact change. And when offered the opportunity, it seemed like, yeah, let's do this, right? Like I want to figure this out. I want to do the best that I can. Um, and that was my promise to the people who I spoke to about taking this position was, um, I can't promise I'll have the answer to everything, but I can promise you that I will do the absolute best I can in whatever you ask me to do. Um, and yeah, and that's how I ended up here.
That's awesome.
Spot on. Great answer. Great explanation. Great answer. Thank
It
you,
was.
Jake.
It was. It wasn't convoluted at all.
No.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important.
Thanks.
It's important for people to hear,
Mhm.
because we've all been that bedside therapist who wasn't involved and was just doing our job. And at some point, we realized that there was an ongoing growth and that need for us individually, but also collectively to improve. And so that's important for people to hear that it comes in all different forms and it comes to people at different times and in different ways. And there's still to this day a lot of bedside therapists, I'm sure, in every state who haven't considered yet whether or not they even want to get involved. But hopefully hearing your message helps them identify that, you know what, let me peek in. Let me peek in, see what's going on and see what I hear, see what I see. And that can lead to more and more and more. I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Mike, what you said there is just be inquisitive.
Yeah.
That's all. When we're members of state societies, when we're leading our profession, we just ask people, pull the curtain back a little bit and poke your head in and ask a question.
Yeah, for sure.
Just be inquisitive. I think that's huge.
Everyone's welcome. And I would say if you have any inkling at all, just come in and sit in one committee that you may be interested in. There's no long-term commitment, right? I'm not going to hold you to any contracted term or anything like that. You certainly don't have to come in and run for president, although if you want to, please come on over. But if
Tough job.
you
It's not easy.
if you want to come on over and figure things out, come and sit and figure out what works for you, right? And if at the end you say this isn't for me, that's fine. We may ask that you help with just a project or two, if you want to be involved later on down the line. there's so many avenues that you can dip your head into or dip your toes into and just figure stuff out, um, and see if it works. If not, maybe give us the feedback we need to make it appealing to someone like you later on down the line. Um, if I maybe take us down a little bit of a tangent of, if you give us your feedback, that is to me the most powerful
Yes.
form of help you can give us, because a lot of us, so going back to those numbers we talked about, right, close to 30,000 licensed therapists, we have 600 showing up to conferences. Of the 600, we give all those people feedback forms. And I get it. Some people just want their CEUs. And out of a field of 5, I get 3s across the board, right? Did you like Mike as a speaker? 3s. Did you like Rob as a speaker? 3s, right? If you could spend some time, and to me, this is low hanging fruit, fill in the 4. Fill in the 2 if you didn't like it. Fill in the whatever the number, and at the end say, I thought Mike spoke really well. I really liked his message on, whatever it is he was speaking about. I like Rob's talk really well. I actually think Rob would pair better on day 3 with these level of speakers. That kind of stuff, it helps us so much, because especially being part of the program committee, when we're meeting biweekly we meet for like 9 months before the actual conference happens. When we go through, it's a lot of it is trying to get into the minds of the people that are coming and say, what would be enjoyable for them? What can we do that would make this more streamlined? What would they enjoy if they are only coming to day 3? What do you want to see on day 3? On the back end, I really want to, it's such a weird idea, but there's a custom t-shirt maker. And the way they're doing it, and I presented to the committee, I was super excited, like, hey man, check this out. Doesn't this sound super cool? Doesn't this need to be at our next conference? And then the immediate feedback was like, well, you're excited. But is everyone else going to be as excited as you to see this thing? As well, true story. I don't know, right? Feedback is so helpful, and it's such a strong tool for us. In any one of the committees, I mentioned program because it's the one I'm so heavily invested in. But if you were to come back and say, hey, I like the way you guys are doing this, but maybe this would help your structure, that alone helps us out more than you may think. So I would say that's a quick way to get involved and then see if you like stuff. And at the very least, if you don't like it at the end, your feedback, trust me, it goes a long way to what we do.
So really quick, personally,
yeah,
this custom t-shirt maker will be there?
No.
Oh no.
No, they won't. I didn't get the votes necessarily.
I was like, I want one.
Yeah, me too. Wah, wah.
You could design it from your phone, and then they would print it in the hallway, and then by the time you got out, you had your custom t-shirt made. I'm trying to make it for future conferences. I think it'd be awesome.
That would be
that actually would have been super cool. I would have bought one 100%.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a goal. It's a goal.
Well, Jake, as we finish up here,
for
the day, let me say to everybody before I ask Jake for some final thoughts, if you see Jake walking around, bug him. I know I do. I know Rob has.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jake. But if you see myself or Rob walking around, because all 3 of us are here, if you see us, stop us, ask us some questions, ask us how we can help you get involved. We'll help you. We'll help direct you. I will personally walk you over and bug somebody like Jake to get you involved. If you're not liking something, let one of us know, because we'll direct you to the right person to share your concerns. And because sometimes, in my opinion, and we ask people for negative comments about our podcast all the time, because I think those negative comments are sometimes some of the most valuable. Tell me I'm doing everything great. Hey, I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But what am I doing wrong? Where can I improve? That's the growth that we're all looking for. So, Jake, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to share? Keeping in mind that this is coming out on Tuesday, day the conference starts, and hopefully some people watch it as they're walking around and go, hey, you know what? That reminds me. I've got this question.
So I will end with that, but can I give a quick funny story?
Sure.
I don't know if you remember the first time you and I met, Mike.
I honestly don't.
It
I apologize.
it was at a conference. I had just filled out my application to be president, and it's funny walking around, and I had met, all but like I met like 20 people, right? So
Mhm.
everyone else is kind of a stranger to me at this point, and I'm trying to meet everyone as I go through. And I hear a whisper or someone tells you, I was like, "Oh yeah, he's going to be the next president, or he's applying for president." And you came up and you shook my hand and you said, "What the hell were you thinking?" You let out the hugest laugh.
Great story.
I was like, "Oh, hey man," and I shook your hand. I was like, "By the way, I'm Mike Sheehan. Pleasure to meet you. We'll be talking a lot."
Yeah.
Um,
Bad.
yeah, but
Well,
no, I mean that's amazing, and it'll always stick with me. I loved it.
allow me to explain. Um, I was president back when the San Diego and Inland Empire were combined. I was president of the San Diego Inland Empire region. And oh my gosh, I must have been president for like 5 years because nobody wanted it. And
Yeah,
and I was the worst. I would go to these board meetings and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really, I don't know. I got asked to take over for Gary Phelps. I don't know if you know who Gary is. He was getting ready to start an advanced degree, master's or something like that. And I thought,
mhm,
oh, this would be awesome. I can do some stuff. And then I got involved and realized how much work there was, and I wasn't mentally prepared for that. Just kind of where I was in life. And
yeah,
then 5 years later, somebody asked me if I'd be willing to um, if they could nominate me for the vice president role. And I asked, what does that entail? And they said program. And I said, no, please don't, don't, because I already know I don't have that detail in me. Right. I'm a
yeah,
get it done kind of guy. I'm not a detail guy. And that scares me to have that responsibility. Even now that would scare me. So when I asked you that question, it was because I channeled that fear, and I was like, "What are you doing? Are you sure?" You know.
no, I appreciate it, and I honestly love that kind of talk between therapists, right? Like I love the candidness. I love transparency. So to Mike's point, if you have anything to say, I love positive feedback. I love negative feedback even more. Come and tell me what you think. And if you're not at the conference this year and you want to email away. I will respond, I promise. I'm happy to have any constructive conversation that there is, and I'm willing to find out the resolution to something because it's something that I really feel like is important for anyone that comes and gives. Not only are you paying your dues, but you're giving an element of your time to
Right.
us as a society. I want to make sure that you feel fulfilled at the end of that. So I really appreciate that type of feedback and that type of time that you give me. And like I said, I promise again, I will do my best to make sure that you at least walk away with an answer. I can't always guarantee it's a positive answer, right? I can't always guarantee that changes will be implemented as soon as you tell me. I will do my best, I promise, but um, you will walk away with an answer, and I will do my best to work with you and get a resolution as best as I can. But yeah, no, I appreciate the work that you guys do in getting this information out there. Obviously, it's working, right? To be in Norway, Australia, Jamaica, people have an interest in this kind of stuff. I just
Yeah.
really feel like they don't know where to go, right? Because I was there at once, and it took me a second for me to realize going to a conference and then matching that up. And maybe that's me, but I kind of feel like that happens with other people too. They look at it as a CU exchange. They don't realize that there's deeper meaning behind it. So
Right.
yeah, hopefully that gets married together and people could look at it a little bit differently, no matter where you're at, and get a little bit more involved. And yeah, I think you'll be happy with what comes out of it.
Awesome. It's great messaging today, Jake. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
As
Thank you, guys.
we like to close out, Mike, like Jake, who would you want to give a shout out to before we close out today?
By the way, we
How do
stole that from Marky Sidebar. So
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have
Hey, man, I
Amanda.
like it.
Shout outs from RT Sidebar.
Yeah. Who do you want to give a shout
Yeah.
out to?
I'm going to give a shout out to my USC team.
Nice.
There's plenty of people I would give shout outs to, but they support me a lot and they allow me the strength to be able to help out with the society as much as I do. So if you're at the conference, you'll meet one of or two members of my team, Dayton and Daniel. They're amazing. George is my boss. He is awesome, is fully supportive. So definitely a shout out to that team as they do a lot of good work for the society. They just allow me to put my face out there for it.
Awesome. Michael?
My shout out will be to the California Society for Respiratory Care coming to the conference. And my shout outs to anybody who's watching this, who is maybe having some of those feelings that we talked about getting involved, not just California, not New Hampshire, not just Vermont, but anywhere. Columbia, reach out. If we can help, if we can do some research for you and help you make something happen or help you get connected in the right way, that's what we'll do. So my shout out is to them.
Excellent.
Rob, how about you?
So I'm going to give a shout out to my wife for putting up with me leaving for 4 days to go to Missouri, coming home, and then leaving for like another 4 days to go to California.
I should give a shout out to your wife too and say thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
So my shout out is my wife.
Make us look good.
My wife, Amanda. And with that, I want to just say, everybody, join us next time on Let's Get Ethical.